They woke me up one morning and said, "Look, you're out of the band." And I said, "What are you talking about? You're out of the band." I said, "No warning? No second chance? You're not going to give me a warning? You're just going to kick me out?" And I thought that was unfair.
Dave Mustaine fueled Metallica's rapid rise to fame in the early 1980s. However, his time with the band ended in a shocking way, just before their first major album release. This wasn't merely a minor shift in metal music. It had a huge impact on emerging bands. For many years, the true reasons behind his firing remained a mystery. But now, at 63, Dave Mustaine has finally opened up about his firing from Metallica. So, let's start. We're finally breaking down the entire story. The year was 1981. Dave Mustaine had just left his band, Panic. He was looking through the classified ads in a Los Angeles magazine called The Recycler. He wanted to find his next chance to play music. He didn't know then that one small ad would start a chain of events that would change heavy metal music forever. The ad was placed by a young Danish drummer, Lars Ulrich, who had recently started a band called Metallica with singer-guitarist James Hetfield. The phone call between Mustaine and Ulrich quickly showed a strong connection. They discovered a shared love for heavy metal music. It became clear this was more than just filling a guitar spot. It was about finding a shared vision for what heavy metal could become. When Mustaine joined Metallica, he wasn't just some guy they hired to play guitar. From his very first day, he was a creative powerhouse. He played guitar in this really aggressive, super skilled way that nobody else could match. Plus, he could write amazing songs too. The band members just clicked together perfectly, and you could tell Metallica was becoming something really, really special. To understand what happened next, we must first recognize the extent of Dave Mustaine's contributions to early Metallica. As a guitarist and songwriter, Dave was known for his exceptionally fast and heavy style, which became a cornerstone of Metallica's early sound. Metallica was just starting but was getting noticed because of their powerful style. Mustaine said in his recent interview, "I wrote a lot of their music that made them. This isn't idle boasting. It's a claim backed by decades of musical evidence and industry acknowledgement." Mustaine's fingerprints are all over Metallica's early catalog, from the iconic No Life Till Leather demo to songs that would later appear on their breakthrough albums. But perhaps most significantly, Mustaine claims that all the guitar solos on their first record were mine. This assertion, if true, means that the guitar work that helped establish Metallica's reputation was largely crafted by the man they would eventually cast aside. By 1983, Metallica was ready to move forward with their career. Lars Ulrich had made contact with Johnny Zazula, who owned a record label called Megaforce Records. Zazula had listened to their demo recording called No Life Till Leather and was interested in working with them. Zazula's reaction was immediate and enthusiastic. He lost his mind, according to Mustaine. The plan was simple: move to New York, work with Zazula, and record their debut album. For Mustaine, this was the big moment he had been working for. The band he had helped was on the verge of breaking through, and he was ready to ride that wave to metal immortality. But beneath the surface, tensions were building. The lifestyle that had earned Metallica the nickname Alcoholica was taking its toll, and personal conflicts were beginning to fracture the band's unity. What none of them could have predicted was how quickly and dramatically everything would fall apart. The move to New York was supposed to be a new beginning. Instead, it would become the setting for one of metal's most infamous betrayals. The exact details of what happened next have been debated for decades, but Mustaine's recent interview provides new clarity on the events that led to his dismissal. According to his version of events, a traffic incident became the catalyst for a decision that had likely already been made behind closed doors. In the spring of 1983, as Metallica made their cross-country journey to New York to work with Johnny Zazula and record their debut album, disaster struck on a snowy highway. Mustaine was driving a 24-foot Ryder truck with James Hetfield's pickup truck on a tow bar behind it when they hit black ice. "The whole thing spun around while I was driving," Mustaine recalls, "and I managed to keep it upright in the middle of the freeway, but the truck stopped and oncoming traffic was coming towards us." Mark Whitaker, who was working as their sound engineer and would later produce their first record, found himself in a dangerous spot. Mustaine explains the moment. "I had to push him out of the way, and a truck was right where he was standing. So if I wouldn't have seen that truck coming and saved his life, he'd be right now." Mustaine believes the decision to fire him had already been made behind closed doors, and the traffic accident was merely a convenient excuse. He said, "James and Lars had made a decision to replace me, and they tried to pin that driving thing on me as the pretext for it." For decades, the official narrative surrounding Mustaine's firing has centered on his alleged drinking problem. The story, as it's been told countless times, is that Mustaine's excessive consumption made him unreliable and difficult to work with. But Mustaine's recent comments tell a different story.
We all drank. That's why they called it Alcoholica. I mean, they didn't call it Dave Alcoholica. We all drank. And they continued to drink like that even after I was gone.
He said, Dave Mustaine says he was shocked and hurt by the way he was fired. He felt it was unfair because no one talked to him about the problems before he was kicked out. Dave said there was no warning, no second chance.
They woke me up one morning and said, look, you're out of the band. And I said, what are you talking about? You're out of the band. I said, no warning, no second chance. You're not going to give me a warning. You're just going to kick me out. And I thought that was unfair.
He believes that everyone in the band was drinking and partying, not just him. Dave said some band members appeared supportive but suddenly turned against him. However, Mustaine also explains why he might have been treated differently even though everyone drank heavily. He said, because when I got drunk, I got violent. He remembers one specific incident at a club in San Francisco called the Mabuhay Gardens. When a report came in about a man assaulting a woman in an alley, Mustaine intervened forcefully. He said, I immediately grabbed a guy and put him down in a submission and started rabbit punching him until he stopped moving. Ron McGovney, the band's original bassist, had a very close view of the dynamic between Dave Mustaine and Metallica. He was present for much of the early drama. McGovney's recent comments tell us important things about Mustaine's time with the band. In 2023, McGovney said something surprising about how much better Mustaine was as a musician during the No Life Till Leather time. He said, Dave was just so far ahead of us as musicians at that point. I have a huge amount of respect for James, Lars, and Dave for what they have accomplished in the music industry. This opinion is very important. McGovney was there when they recorded the music. He saw how they created their songs. McGovney also described the violent incidents that preceded Mustaine's firing, including the infamous dog-kicking incident, a key catalyst that took place at Ron McGovney's parents' fourplex in Norwalk, California. James Hetfield was living there with the bassist at the time. The confrontation began when Mustaine brought his puppy to rehearsal, a decision he would later call dumb. During the rehearsal, Mustaine's dog began exploring and put her paws up on McGovney's prized GTO. Without warning, Hetfield kicked the animal. Mustaine's immediate reaction was explosive. The confrontation quickly escalated, moving from the front yard into the house. McGovney, who witnessed the entire scene, recalled jumping out of the shower, wearing only a towel, to find Mustaine and Hetfield nose to nose. Mustaine's response was swift and violent. He punched Hetfield in the mouth, then hip-tossed McGovney into his television setup. This incident led to Mustaine's temporary dismissal from the band. He asked to come back to the band. This led to his final firing in 1983. The other Metallica band members say they had good reasons to fire Dave Mustaine. They say Dave's drinking and bad attitude made it hard to work with him. Although James and Lars also drank, Dave's drinking made him violent and caused fights. They said it was not just about drinking. Dave's behavior caused tension and made the band unsafe. Brian Slagle, who worked with Metallica's first record label, said Dave was talented but also had a large problem with and the band tried to manage the problem for a long time but finally decided it was not working. They thought firing Dave was the best choice to save the band. Metallica says they told Dave about his firing after they had already found his replacement. They say it was a hard choice, but they had to do it. Perhaps the most painful part of Mustaine's firing wasn't losing his job. It was what happened next. According to his recent interview, the betrayal went beyond his firing. Metallica allegedly continued to use his music without giving him credit or payment.
The thing that bothered me the most was I had all my music and I left it behind and I said, don't use my music. And of course they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they used it on the first record. On the second record, there's parts of my music on a song. Solos on the first record are mine, except that they're...
This made the situation much worse for Mustaine. He had helped create the music, but the band acted like he never existed. He claims that Metallica had access to tape recordings of his musical ideas and continued to incorporate them into their songs even after his departure. This allegation, if true, represents not just a professional betrayal, but a theft of intellectual property. Mustaine calls this behavior a grotesque lack of character from his former bandmates. He chose these words carefully. This wasn't just about business or legal problem, it was about basic honesty and fairness. In Mustaine's view, Metallica didn't just fire him, they stole from him. He believes his former friends showed no integrity. They took his creative work and used it as their own. This hurt him more than just losing his job in the band. This aspect of the story adds a layer of complexity to the Metallica-Megadeth rivalry that goes beyond simple personal animosity. The moment of firing was brutal in its simplicity. Mustaine was told he was out, given a bus ticket back to Los Angeles, and sent on his way. The dream was over, the future uncertain, and the betrayal complete. Mustaine recalls the conversation. I went home and I contacted a friend of mine and I said, I quit. She said, no, you didn't. You got fired. And I said, yeah, I got fired. I quit. After Metallica fired him, Dave Mustaine created something amazing. He started a new band called Megadeth. This became one of metal music's biggest success stories. But Mustaine wasn't just making a new band. He was angry and hurt. He wanted to show the world what he could do. He put all those feelings into his music. Megadeth became his way to prove he was talented. He wanted everyone to see that Metallica made a mistake when they let him go. The name Megadeth showed how Mustaine felt. It was angry and dark. The name meant he wouldn't respond gently to being fired. Mustaine had a clear plan for Megadeth. He wanted to make music that was faster than Metallica's songs. He also wanted it to be more technical and aggressive. Metallica thought they could succeed without him. Mustaine wanted to prove them wrong. He would show them what they lost when they fired him. His goal was simple: to create music that was faster, more technical, and ultimately better than his old bands, proving they had made a huge mistake. Megadeth's first two albums proved Mustaine's talent. The albums were called Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good and Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? These albums showed that Mustaine was a skilled guitarist. They also proved he could write great songs and lead a band. Because of these albums, Megadeth became one of the big four thrash metal bands. The big four were the most important metal bands of that time. They were Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax. Mustaine had shown the world he could create something as good as Metallica. What makes Dave Mustaine's story so interesting isn't just that his bandmates betrayed him. It's what he did after it happened. For 4 decades, Megadeth has served as both a creative outlet and a form of ongoing vindication for their founder. Every album, every tour, every achievement has been in part a response to that moment in 1983 when he was told he wasn't good enough. Megadeth became hugely successful. The band sold over 50 million albums around the world. They were nominated for Grammy Awards multiple times. They were also put into the Metal Hall of Fame. This makes Mustaine's story one of music's greatest comebacks. He went from being fired to creating one of the most successful metal bands ever. The competition between Metallica and Megadeth became one of metal music's biggest stories. This competition pushed both bands to make better music. It also gave fans some of the best metal songs ever made. But Mustaine saw it differently. To him, it wasn't really a competition. He had a bigger goal. He wanted to prove he was talented and earn his place in metal history. Dave Mustaine's firing from Metallica changed heavy metal music forever. This wasn't just personal drama between band members. It changed the whole direction of metal music. Without the firing, Megadeth would never have existed. Metallica might not have worked as hard to make great music. They had to compete with Mustaine's new band. This competition made both bands better. Mustaine's story also showed other musicians something important. It proved that bad experiences could inspire great music. Personal problems could become creative fuel. The competition between Metallica and Megadeth has lasted for decades. But sometimes, Mustaine and his old bandmates have made peace on a personal level. One example was when Mustaine showed up at Metallica's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. This showed that time had helped heal some of their personal hurt. The bands still compete with each other professionally, but the personal anger between the musicians has gotten better over the years. Over the years, numerous music industry professionals who worked with both bands have provided their perspectives on the Mustaine-Metallica situation. Producers, managers, and fellow musicians have generally supported both sides of the story, suggesting that the truth is indeed complex and multifaceted. Music industry experts see 2 different ways these bands worked. Metallica was good at business from early on. This helped them become one of music's most successful bands. Megadeth worked differently under Mustaine's leadership. They focused more on making complex music and staying true to their art. Sometimes this meant they didn't think as much about making money. Both approaches worked, but in different ways. Metallica became more commercially successful. Megadeth became known for their musical skill and artistic vision. From a fan perspective, the outcome of the Mustaine-Metallica conflict has been immensely beneficial for heavy metal. The intense rivalry fueled a competitive dynamic that pushed both bands to achieve new heights of creativity, ultimately giving the genre 2 of its most important and influential acts. In this sense, metal fans can be seen as the ultimate beneficiaries of this personal and professional schism. Today, Dave Mustaine and Metallica both continue to respect the importance of their shared history. Dave acknowledges that Metallica went on to great success, but he often says it was hard for him to be fired without warning. He believes he contributed a lot to Metallica's sound and success. Metallica members have said they still respect Dave's talent, but maintain their decision was necessary because of his behavior. Both sides have grown and changed over the years. Dave Mustaine overcame his personal problems and cancer, and Metallica remains one of the most important heavy metal bands. Their story shows how difficult it can be to balance talent and personal challenges in a band. Although the firing was painful, it helped create two legendary bands that changed metal music forever. What do you think about Dave Mustaine's story? Was Metallica right to fire him, or did they make the biggest mistake in metal history? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more untold stories from the world of rock and metal.